Just keep an eye on summer for next year. No, I don't care about seeing you. I just get done with work on June the 7th. Hello? Guess I'm too abrupt. In our last video, we talked about the Beach Boys' 50th anniversary box set, Made in California, released in 2013. Made in California has lots of interesting things to offer. You can watch my video and we go through every disc and talk about what's rare and what's exclusive and what's new. But that wasn't really the end of sort of important archival releases. Later in 2013, we saw the first major digital-only Beach Boys release. There had been a few smaller things before, like a special digital EP for the 50th anniversary and whatnot. But the Big Beat 1963 was kind of a big deal. It was all new stuff, or at least unreleased stuff, released only digitally. Now, the Big Beat 1963 is much more of a Brian Wilson collection. There's a lot of his solo material. Some of it's very interesting, like Thank Him, which has become one of the best Beach Boys AIs ever made. His demo of Gonna Hustle You, which would become Jan and Dean's New Girl in School. A lot of his Honeys material there, backing tracks and vocal stuff. But there's only a few Beach Boys tracks on the Big Beat. Maybe someday I'll talk more about those, but it wasn't, anything that Beach Boys fans would probably jumping over each other to try to get. But apparently it was successful enough for, in December of 2014, we got not one, but two new Beach Boys digital releases. The first one, the one we're not really going to talk about today, is Live in Sacramento 1964. These are two concerts, two complete shows that formed kind of the backbone of one of the group's 1964 LPs, Beach Boys Concert. We've talked about Beach Boys Concert in a lot of different videos. Someday I'll do a whole video devoted to it. It just kind of drifts in and out of other ones. But this is a fascinating set, a really cool live document. But again, this isn't really what we're going to talk about too much today. I wanted to look at the other one of my last summertime reviews. We're going to look at 2014's Keep an Eye on Summer, the Beach Boys 1964 Sessions. Pretty cool stuff. So the group released 4 different LPs in 1964, those being Shutdown Volume 2, All Summer Long, the aforementioned Beach Boys Concert, which was actually the most successful, going all the way to #1 on the Billboard charts there, on the top album charts, and also a favorite for every holiday season, the Beach Boys 1964 Christmas album. But that's 4 records in one year. That's unheard of today. And that was coming off 3 different records for 1963. And there would be 3 more in 1965. So the group was definitely on a roll. And Keep an Eye on Summer, this digital-only release, shows that, there's a reason why they were so fecund, so productive. Because, it seemed like everyone was firing on all cylinders, really. Now, Shutdown Volume 2 is kind of a mismatch of stuff. I mean, it definitely has some very transparent filler and whatnot, but the originals on here, and even some of the, shall we say, more intricate pieces of album filler are pretty cool. And this is a much-loved album, and a lot of these tracks are done live. And that's kind of the bulk of this set, I think. The main focus of it even takes its title from one of the songs. But I thought today we'd dive into this set a little bit more, talk about what hadn't been released, what had been, because unlike the Big Beat, there are quite a few things we have seen before, but they get newer mixes or whatever. So I thought, what better way to, draw summer to a close on Labor Day than to talk about Keep an Eye on Summer. So our big starter for this album is kind of the lead track from Shutdown Volume 2, and that would be Fun, Fun, Fun. We all know and love Fun, Fun, Fun. So it starts off with a session and backing track combo, followed by an acapella, and then a 2013 stereo mix. We saw the stereo mix. The acapella was new, but interestingly enough, the backing track we had heard before on Hawthorne, California, back in 2001. Here it's combined with some sessions. Some of those we'd had little pieces of before, but it's extended for this digital release, so that was kind of nice, going back and digging more stuff out of the archives. This actually leads to one of the criticisms of this digital set, is that sessions and backing tracks, or sessions and acapellas, or sessions and new mixes, whatever, are smashed together. So if I just wanted to hear the Fun, Fun, Fun instrumental, I'd probably have to listen to it on my Hawthorne, California CD. But if I wanted to hear the sessions as well, then I would listen to it on here. It's one of those things where it's not like everything is kind of its own track. You know, there are a lot of things that are combined. Also, of course, when it comes to the songs themselves, if they've been remixed in stereo again to take advantage of new technology or whatever, you can find some of those here, but most of them are actually from older sets. So in this case, the mix of Fun 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 was from Made in California. Followed by Why Do Fools Fall in Love. We get a new stereo mix of the complete song, we get a backing track and a session. It should be noted that it is not the extended version of the song that we had on Summer Love Songs. I have a whole video on Summer Love Songs. However, it does have sessions for the piano part that is cut from almost every copy of the song, except for this one. This is the only one that keeps it. So it's weird to have sessions for something that wasn't actually included in the song. Don't Worry Baby comes next. We have some sessions, some backing tracks with backing vocals, and a stereo mix, also from Summer Love Songs, I believe. It's different than the material we get on Made in California. The sessions and stuff are a little bit different, so that's nice. Now, not every song gets multiple tracks, you know, dedicated to it, and not every song is featured. Several songs on here, like Louie Louie and This Car of Mine, there's nothing. So we have a real quick detour into In the Parking Lot, get an acapella and stuff. The Warmth of the Sun, I'll show you the 45, is on here too. We get a really nice instrumental and sessions, but the stereo mix is not new. It was released in 2013. So we get some new session stuff, new instrumental stuff, but not a new mix of the song. Pom Pom Playgirl, interestingly enough, there was some Pom Pom Playgirl material on Made in California, but this is all different, and it gets a new stereo mix as well. Denny's Drums, probably the most disliked track, along maybe with Louie Louie on Shutdown Volume 2, gets a different mix with guitars. According to the digital liner notes, which you can find online, the guitars are played by Carl and Al, and it turns Denny's Drums, into more of a group jam than just Dennis, you know, rocking out on his drum kit. So that's kind of neat. Keep an Eye on Summer gets a real quick backing track bit, and then we have Endless Sleep. Now this was a cover of a song from the 50s. It should be noted that the only Beach Boy involved in the production here is Brian. It's very much a Brian solo production and not a group effort. A man named Larry Denton does the lead vocal, and Larry Denton was part of the Survivors, one of Brian's side groups, if I recall correctly. It's neat to have it here though, and I like that we get a little bit of Brian stuff. You know, a little bit different there, not just group stuff. And that does it for most of the Shutdown Volume 2 things. But pretty cool. We get a nice assortment of stuff, get some instrumentals. I like it a lot. Some of it we've heard before, some of it we haven't. The other main focus is All Summer Long. All Summer Long, of course, was the album that produced their chart-topping single, I Get Around, and several other immediately recognizable songs. So you know I Get Around is going to get quite a bit of material. But interestingly enough, even though it does get a fair bit of material, it doesn't get as much as Fun 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 did. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But we get sessions and backing tracks. The session, you can hear part of it on Made in California. The backing track has been released before. Here it is on the Good Vibrations bonus disc there. And then an I Get Around a cappella. And that's it. And that was less than I thought it would be. All Summer Long, the eponymous track from this album, we get a backing track and an a cappella along with some sessions and a stereo mix, but it should be noted that you could technically have the backing track and a cappella if you had this CD. This is the weird Good Vibrations disc with the 2-channel mixes, so you could configure the song to hear only instruments, only vocals, or anything in between. So in this case, they kind of, I'm sure, stripped the just vocals, just instruments stuff off, and then release them as separate tracks, which is probably what most people wanted, because it's such a weird gimmick to be able to change the song around even while you're listening to it. But if your stereo isn't set up to be able to do that, or you don't know how to do that, then you kind of can't enjoy those in the way they were intended. We get real quick things from Hushabye, Girls on the Beach, which is a really fun session where they sing it like opera singers. It's pretty cool. A little bit of Wendy, followed by an a cappella Wendy, which again, if you had this, you could have adjusted your balance knob and heard that. Then we get something a little more conventional, Don't Back Down. But it's an alternate take, and that was released on the Little Deuce Coupe / All Summer Long Twofer CD. It was the last bonus track, I believe. Yep, Don't Back Down, alternate take. That's really cool to have here. And what they did was they added a little more to the session, not a lot more, but a little bit, and they kind of gave it a new punchier mix, you know, to modernize it some. That was really cool. I'm glad we have that. Interestingly enough, the Shutdown Volume 2 twofer, which was paired with 1963's Surfer Girl album, there's not really a lot of stuff from that twofer on this digital release. However, the other twofers, and we'll see those in a moment, there's a little bit more to work with there. We jump into Christmas territory now for Little Saint Nick, but it's not the version that we hear every Christmas. It's the version that uses the backing track to the song Drive-In, which at one point, I guess, would have been Little Saint Nick. Instead, they opted to change it and go for something more like Little Deuce Coupe. But it's kind of cool to have sessions with it. Although there are a lot of Christmas album, you know, outtakes and unused songs and alternate mixes and stuff, we don't really have a lot of production stuff to go with that album. There was that EP last Christmas I have a review of called Christmas Instrumentals, or maybe it's Holiday Instrumentals, I can never remember. But it's kind of interesting to have actually something, you know, a little bit different, some of the recording stuff. It's kind of neat. We've heard the song itself before. There's a song called Untitled Jam / Let's Live Before We Die, and the liner notes are very vague on that, so I don't know if that was a Brian thing or just the group just kind of rocking out, I don't know. Little Honda gets some stuff, including an expanded version of the alternate take. I'll show you back actually. The alternate take scene here, again, extended sessions and then kind of punched up. And also the Little Honda unreleased single mix. So Little Honda was a charting single, but, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that comes from its part on the 4 by the Beach Boys EP. I have a whole video on Beach Boys EPs. So, I don't know. But it's kind of cool. I really like the single version. It's not a lot different, it's just mixed differently, but it sounds really nice. I like that. Then we actually jump into an album that would be released in 1965, and that would be one of their most popular albums, The Beach Boys Today. I always liked the review that said, this is the album that turned the Beach Boys into the Beach Men. And Today has a lot of very classic songs on it, and a lot of more melancholy songs. You know, they were moving away from that surf and hot rod and high school kind of image and going for songs about complex relationships with people and, you know, wondering why we're alive and that kind of stuff. It's very interesting, and Today's a great album. The final song, of course, which isn't really a song, lets it down some. And someday when I review Beach Boys Today, we'll go into that. But we get several sessions and acapellas and things for songs like She Knows Me Too Well, Don't Hurt My Little Sister, and the acapella for When I Grew Up to Be a Man, which you can find here. We get a couple unused Christmas songs, which I really like that. Jingle Bells and Christmas Eve, both of which are instrumentals, neither of which sounds finished. Jingle Bells did not sound like the traditional Jingle Bells to me when I listened to the backing track. So I have a feeling maybe there's a lot of stuff missing, or I'm just misinterpreting this. I'm not a musician, you know, but I think I can recognize a song like that. Maybe I can't. There's a couple live in studio things, Fun, 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 and I Get Around, the band probably practicing for live stuff, you know, doing some rehearsals of the whole song, and that stuff sounds really good. I'm So Young, which was a classic rock cover. We had an alternate version, an early version, that was released as a bonus track on the Today, Summer Days and Summer Nights twofer. That gets an expanded reissue here. All Dressed Up for School, an outtake song from 1964 that made its official debut on the Little Deuce Coupe All Summer Long twofer, is here as well. It got a new stereo mix. It's been released on a few different sets. The Singles Collection has it, Made in California has it, but it's a really nice stereo mix. I like that. And then Dance Dance Dance. Now we've had a lot of sessions and stuff from Dance Dance Dance, notably the alternate mix. I think it's an earlier mix. It's called the Nashville mix on the Keep an Eye on Summer set, and it's a different take of the song. That was released here, but here it gets like an added count in. They expand on the sessions a little bit. And we've heard the backing track before. The backing track was on this disc, so if you just want the instrumental. But so Keep an Eye on Summer adds an acapella in. You could already hear an alternate take. We could already hear the instruments, so let's just hear the Beach Boys. Sounds really good. And we're almost done. You might remember, forgive the air conditioner kicking on, You might remember that near the finale of Made in California, there were several songs that were recorded in mid-1964 for the BBC. Those recordings were thought to be lost, and then they were rediscovered. It's actually like a second generation copy. It's a recording of a recording. But 3 of those, When I Grew Up to Be a Man, Hushabye, and Wendy, were released on Made in California. This release features 4 of them. I Get Around, The Little Old Lady from Pasadena, Graduation Day, and Surfin' USA. Again, the quality's not the best, but it's a really neat inclusion, especially for this concert that everybody thought was, lost time. And I like that it's a companion piece to Made in California and doesn't just double up on those. And finally, our only thing from Beach Boys concert, which is a live single mix of Johnny B. Good. No doubt they were considering releasing a single for this album, especially if it was so successful. So they picked the big finale, Johnny B. Good, and that is actually a good choice because Johnny B. Good is not on this digital release. That's taken from a different Sacramento concert from 1963. So it's kind of nice that they were able to change it up a little and still acknowledge the album but not be duplicating stuff. So all told, Keep an Eye on Summer is a very interesting collection of 1964 pieces. There are enough finished songs that it's not just a collection of sessions or just a collection of instrumentals. There are some complete, stereo recordings of different classic songs, and it's kind of neat to look at the production angle of things to see how a song sounded without instruments or without vocals, or what, Brian and Mike and Chuck Britz and other people in the studio were talking about while these songs were being recorded. That's pretty cool too. It was a really fun listen. Keep an Eye on Summer is one of the more popular digital releases, and I think that's because it works as a complement to other materials like Made in California. There's not a lot of overlap between the two, even if they're covering similar things, and that's definitely a plus. And it also works to supplement a current Beach Boys collection. A lot of people have these albums, but here's a good chance to kind of build on that without too much duplication. Yes, there is material we've heard before, but at the same time, there's not enough of it to make this seem like an unworthy purchase. And I don't remember paying that much on Amazon to download this. I think it was pretty cheap. So yeah, it's true if you don't do digital music, some people don't, that maybe this would be something you might miss out on. But all told, it's a pretty cool release, and I recommend it. If you don't do digital music, give it a try. Interestingly, the 3 songs that get the most focus are Fun, 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 All Summer Long, and Dance, Dance, Dance. So I'm surprised I Get Around didn't get more. Again, you can find the digital liner notes online. They're very informative, going through and talking about who was present and the dates and things like that. What do you think of Keep an Eye on Summer or Beach Boys 1964 releases? Please do comment below. I'll see you next week as we go back to VHS land to talk about Shining Time Station Part 2. And don't worry, keeping the summer alive and 50 Big Ones reviews are on the horizon. Thank you for watching. Please comment below. We'll see you next time. So long.